Hello everyone and welcome to the iSpring Solutions webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today as we're going to speak about the ins and outs of mobile learning project management. My name is Paulina, I am a community manager and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. As a speaker we have Debbie Richards, the president of Creative Interactive Ideas. Hi Debbie, how are you doing today?
Hi.
And at the end of the webinar, we're also going to have a Q&A session, so if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to submit them in the question box, which should be on the right side of your GoToWebinar panel. And in case you have any iSpring related questions, we also have invited Alex Dim. Hi Alex, thank you very much for joining.
Hello, Paulina.
Alex is our Senior Technical Support Engineer, and he will be more than happy to address your questions. At this point, I think we are ready to begin. So Debbie, I'm passing the mic over to you.
Thank you very much. So welcome, everyone. My name is Debbie Richards. My company is Creative Interactive Ideas, and I am based out of Houston, Texas. I am really excited to be talking to you today about mobile learning project management. I've been doing mobile learning for a number of years, and I have also been doing e-learning as well. And the thing that I would like to share with you is thinking about where you need to start and what steps you need to take to successfully build your first mobile learning project. If I can get my computer to work here. And just because you are experienced in managing an e-learning project doesn't mean that you're ready to manage a mobile learning project. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the differences between e-learning and mobile learning. I think that there are many differences, and there are also some landmines that you need to avoid. I will share a couple of case studies with you, and we'll look at the project management steps of developing a mobile learning project, and we'll talk about, from my experience, what to do and what not to do. And as I go through the webinar, if you have questions, go ahead and post them in the question box, and I will try to answer those and also give you some good feedback as well. So first of all, what I would like to say is that we are moving learning to mobile technology. And the reason that we're doing that is mobile technology changes the way we live, and it's beginning to change the way we learn. Mobile learning involves the use of mobile technology, either alone or in combination with other types of technology, to enable learners to access training anytime and anywhere. And that can happen in a number of different ways. So they can use mobile devices to access educational resources. They can connect with others. They can actually create their own content, both inside and outside the classroom. And they can take their learning via the mobile technology. When I think about barriers to mobile learning, there are a number of different things and reasons that people think about in adopting mobile learning technologies. And I would just want to point out a few of them that seem to be barriers in corporate America. And one of these is lack of IT infrastructure to support technologies, the internal skills to take advantage of the technologies to develop content development, and then resistance from IT to implement this technology. And I took this from a study, and I've listed the information there, so if you want to go back out and look at that, you can. But there are a lot of reasons that people are resistant still to move to mobile learning. And I think one of the key elements for success for mobile learning is project management. And in project management, I just want to define that when I think of project management, I think of three key elements. First of all is where are we, and that's the measurement component. Where do we plan to be, and that's the evaluation component. And then how can we get on track? And so in developing mobile learning projects, I always try to keep that in mind. So let me just share with you my first case study and some of the challenges that I've had in moving to mobile learning. So this case study involved a real estate company that was for high-end buildings here in Houston, not residential. And this company came to me and said that they wanted to develop online learning for their employees. They had about 5,000 employees, and the employees were real estate agents, internal sales staff, a number of different types of people that worked inside of the corporation and off-site in home offices or in different locations. They previously they'd only developed training that was face-to-face training. So this was their first foray into online learning. So we decided to do a project that we felt that was of great interest to everyone because we wanted to have something that everyone would enjoy. We wanted to have a good first success. So we really made an effort to make sure that the course that we developed wasn't something that they had to take. It was something that they wanted to take. Now, this company also didn't have a learning management system, and they did not have any way to disseminate the information as well. So we had to think about that. We had to think about how we were going to develop the training and then how we were going to deploy it. And then also, were we going to track the training, or we were going to do anything to assess the learning that the training. So we decided that we would just jump in and start this project. But one of the key questions that I had with the staff was, where will people be taking the training? And what type of devices do they use? Because I felt like this particular organization was a good organization that could use mobile learning. So we talked to the IT staff, and that would be my first advice to you when you're thinking about moving to mobile learning, is to have a conversation with IT to find out if there is a policy for mobile learning, what kind of equipment is being issued. We found out that most of the employees had iPads, and that they were using iPads to access both internal information and external information. And so we decided that we would develop a project that was a mobile project and that would run on the iPad. We also decided that we weren't going to build the course and try to implement a learning management system at the same time, that we would do the learning management system later, that the students would access the course through the internal system, the SharePoint system, and we weren't going to do anything as far as tracking other than sending them a follow-up survey to say, you know, what did you think of the training, and just get some feedback from them. So those were all the things that we did in order to build and implement that first training. The training was very successful. Everyone loved the class. The class was a class on understanding generations and how to communicate with different generations. And this particular audience found that very fascinating because their particular industry, there are a number of different generations, and that's a big part of their daily work is communication. So communicating with potential clients, communicating with individuals within the organization. We included some scenario-based learning. We kept the actual mobile components very limited, so we didn't use all of the technologies that we could use for mobile learning, responsive design and other things, because we wanted to concentrate on the content and concentrate on delivering something, the first task that was very basic and that we knew was going to work successfully on the system. So So that was our first application. So in thinking of that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the business strategy and how you would go about your first mobile learning project. So I think one of the key things, and this is from a book called Mastering Mobile Learning by Chad Udell and Gary Woodall, and I think you really have to understand what the business issues are that are driving a mobile learning project. And you're going to need that in order to sell the idea and get a budget from senior management. Because just because you say, hey, we need to create mobile learning for our company, that may not be enough. So you need to know what the need is and what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And with any project, you need to come up with an executive summary. So an executive summary is a single page that provides a clear, concise solution of the problem, and it includes a high-level overview of the research that you did that led you to promote this particular proposal. I also think that you need to state the business case. So you need to provide information on what part of the need it addresses, what do you want to achieve with this project. You need to have a clear goal. You need to outline the priorities, and that's going to lead to the mobile solutions that you need to find or create. Some of the other things that are included in this are the project objectives, the expected outcomes from the mobile learning project, and the criteria that you have for assessing project success. Now, you'll also want to include your scope, which is how are you going to do it, okay? And for a mobile learning project, especially the first project you do, I would include things like, are you going to do a pilot? Are you going to do a staggered implementation where you're going to test in different areas, or you're going to do a global rollout? How exactly are you going to do this? Think about the metrics. How are you going to measure your success are you going to use assessment? And then what are the estimates that you have? What are the costs of the project, and what is the return on investment and the benefit? You'll want to include a problem statement, and the problem statement is going to include the information, skills, knowledge, budget, performance, anything that contributes to the broad problem statement, and then in general terms, what's required to resolve the business problem as well. So these are all things that I think if you articulate these things, this will help also with buy-in for your senior management or the person who's in charge of authorizing the project. I always also try to have some information about the solution and the objectives as well. Talk about the current process. So what are you doing now? And then how will this affect different people? And that may be people like people in the internal departments. How does it affect clients? Is it anything that's going to impact external partners or vendors or the competition? And then what are the resources that you're going to need to complete the project? So not only your internal staff, the development team, but what other resources are you going to need to help you with this project? We found in the project that we did for the real estate company that we really had to engage and involve IT, because we had to make sure that we understood the equipment that was being used, how people were using it, and then where they were using it. But we also wanted IT, if there was an issue with the technology, we wanted people to go back to IT, not necessarily come back to the talent development group. What hardware and software is going to be involved, how much time is this going to take, and what is the budget. So it's really important to identify stakeholders that are going to become your champions for this. So if there's somebody within the organization who really wants to help you initiate this project, and what are their requirements, and how can they help you. I call them my champions. They're the people who go out and they advertise for you. They'll let other people know about the program. They'll help spread the word, and then they'll also help you get feedback on questions and things that you're getting from your audience. So it's real important to have that type of person involved in your project. Then the next type of person that you want involved are, I think, especially for corporations, business unit managers, because the business unit managers are going to own the problem that you're going to try to solve with training. And their overriding interest is getting the work done and getting it done soon. And you need to understand and know what they're trying to accomplish so that you can help them with the results that you're going to be doing with your training. The business unit manager, a lot of times, is training's primary sponsor. So when I think of a business unit manager, I think of somebody, for example, might be in safety, or they might be in corporate compliance, or they, they could be an HR group. But somebody who understands the end goal of your training and has the responsibility for the area that you're going to be working with. And when you're working with the right business unit manager in your organization, then measuring results is not difficult, because you can start with their problems and then work backwards. And I think the most important step in measuring performance is to understand from a business unit perspective the what's in it for me. And then clarifying that and looking jointly and examining that problem so that you can clarify the gaps between the results desired and the results that you're actually getting. You also need to determine what major skill gaps and learning deficiencies are holding people back, and try to think about the estimated dollar values that will be gained by eliminating these deficiencies. Of course, you always want to think about the learner. So in mobile learning, you not only want to think about who at your organization will actually use the materials that you're developing, you're going to think about how those learners access that information. So do they work remotely and require point-of-need training support? Do they travel often, and do they need to access the information from airplanes or other places where there's no internet access? Do they all use the same mobile devices, or is there a mix? So do you have people who use iOS devices, Android devices? How are they accessing information on mobile devices? I think understanding the learner's profile will help you define and really evaluate your goals that you're trying to accomplish. And then I think you need to think about alternatives. So what are some alternatives with the proposed solution? So I always try to have a plan B, and I try to have a plan C. So what are those? Are they updates, documentation, and then you need to include what the basic requirements are for each of these and estimate project risk, what's the ramp-up time, and project delays, and then contrast each one of these things with your solution. And all of this goes into your initial project plan, and before you start working on anything. I think it just provides a really good roadmap, and it provides a way for you to think about where you're going and where you want to be. So I'm going to just stop for a second and ask you, has anybody taken this approach to developing mobile learning? Have you started with this type of project plan? What are some of the things that you're doing when you're thinking about beginning mobile learning? So I'm just going to give you just a second to perhaps type a couple of questions or comments in the comment box before I move on. Got a comment from Alan who says that in Costa Rica, the Ministry of Education is promoting mobile learning as a way to get to students, and they're looking at other e-learning software, and they think that iSpring solution has the advantage of multiple devices across and information with the possibility of downloading content when there is no internet access. Someone said, I've really never thought about analytical planning when I deliver to customers. That's a lot to think about. And then someone else said, we do, but at a smaller scale because project planning requires a lot of time. I absolutely agree. Yeah, and I'll tell you that the first couple of times that you do this, it is a lot of work. But in the long run, it's really going to help you, and having this sort of template or outline to work with will help you streamline the process, and it will also help with project success. And we have another comment where someone says, we went through a similar checklist but lacked the HR and the authoring tools at the time to implement. I understand that. And then I have someone who says that they're in education. George says, I'm in education and have not considered using this level of analytical planning. However, it will have merit to planning and selling my proposals to administrators. So that's great. Okay, so we'll go on, and I'll do another check-in with you in just a little bit. Okay. So let's talk a little more about considerations. So project management considerations. Well, we talked a little bit about just putting together the plan, and a couple of other things that I think are very specific to project management for mobile learning is to look at the policies that may be affected by the project. And the reason I say that is when we first started developing learning for mobile, the same policies that we had used for desktop systems in corporations weren't being used for mobile devices. So there were some clear questions around what we could let people have access to, and from a security standpoint, how they were going to access that. And so it's a good idea to review that internally with your company, review the privacy standards and also the ethical standards that your technology is going to utilize. Some critical factors here are, for example, the other things like partnerships with vendors and also internal marketing and promotion, and then the need that you may have for help desk or customer support. So who's going to manage that? Who's going to handle that? How are you going to do that is very important. For the teams, who is going to be involved with the team to deploy or to work through the mobile project? Of course, you'll have a project manager, but it's a good idea to have a stakeholder committee and communications committee that's going to help you get the word out about the mobile learning and understanding how that's going to be different from using their desktop computers. We usually have, of course, a development team, but also a delivery and deployment team, because deployment of mobile learning is slightly different than deploying on standard computer systems. All right. The technology, what are the choices? Are they going to use company-owned devices, or are they going to use their own devices? And then what software is needed for those devices, and who's going to deploy it and test it, and what are the security policies around it. So it's a good idea just to review your mobile learning security policies, because those may be slightly different than the policies that you are using for your desktop computer system. And of course, having IT involved, understanding what those security policies are and how they're going to access those devices and pull it together. I can't say this enough, because this is something that that people just haven't taken into consideration with moving to mobile devices. And then the constraints, are they organizational? And if you, for example, if you don't have the in-house skills to build a mobile application, or it could be technical. For example, it could be the small screen size. That will play into the target learner profile that you're developing. So if your workforce isn't tech savvy enough to operate a web-based app, then that might be a constraint. And you, even though we know a lot of people are using mobile devices, there are still some who have some challenges with using applications. So how are you going to handle that? And then the different assumptions. What's the actual impact that the mobile learning is going to have on your organization? Can you assume a dollar return, productivity increase, or accident decrease from these? You know, these are some of the things that we do in normal learning, but we also want to include that in our mobile learning as well. And then I always look at how are we going to roll out, and what are our specific action plans, what are the short-term goals and long-term goals, and our major milestones in doing the project. And then, of course, how are you going to measure the success of the program? How are you going to tie that back to the project initiatives? So these are all things that, that you need to make sure that you're considering as you consider the, think about the overall considerations for the project. So now we're going to get to implementation, and this is where I'll show how iSpring fits into this project management and what we're doing. But first, I'd like to share another case study with you. So this case study involves a corporate airline company, and with this airline company, the challenges that we had in developing mobile learning were, first of all, the learners were pilots, flight attendants, and they were maintenance personnel in the organization. And the learning that they took, mobile learning, they took on the go. So they were they needed to take their training on the plane when they were not, when they didn't have duties. They were the crew that was a secondary crew when they were at location waiting to fly. So the mobile learning was necessary to be that they took it all over the world. So they also had iPads. So everything we had to deliver via iPad. And so when we were looking at the implementation plan, we had to make sure that everything that we did was dynamic and adaptable, and we had to anticipate decisions and things that might come in later in the project. So we knew that we were going to have to develop the training so that they could take it anytime, anywhere, but we had to make considerations for other types of situations that they would be in, and then also to provide them the ability to access the training via learning management system, or to have it with an offline viewer, because they may be in a location where there wasn't any Wi-Fi, so they wanted to be able to download the training so they could take it, and then when they got to a place where there was Wi-Fi, that they could have their progress uploaded into the learning management system. So some of the things that we did for the implementation and deployment is we wanted to make sure that we had the operations team trained. We want them to be trained in how the mobile learning was going to be used, how it was going to be managed and operated, and the procedures of the system. I think that one of the things that that was challenging was that the way that the audience used the mobile learning was a little different than from anything that they had expected before. So so there was a little bit of training that was needed for the operations team there, and we also wanted to make sure that they understood that they would be assisting users going forward, and they needed to report back to the team anything that was needed, and that they would be performing the evaluations and collect data, and so that we could look at it later on. So so here's the iSpring mobile app. I don't know if any of you are using any of these apps today. We have the iSpring Play app, which allows you to take the applications and save them on your devices for viewing them offline. And then you have the Learner app, where you can learn information, or you can get to the information from the iSpring LMS. And then finally, the iSpring Cloud app, which allows you to pull information from your iSpring Cloud account. Are any of you in the audience using any of these mobile apps now? Would you like to go ahead and just put something in the question box, provide some feedback on any of the tools that that you're using? I'll just give you a few minutes to do that as well.
Hey Debbie, I just wanted to let you know that we have about 10 to 13 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. I've got somebody who's talking about using iSpring Play. And some people that are going to be using Cloud and Cloud Play. I'll tell you, I've been using, and I'll just tell you a kind of unique way that I've been using Cloud is I started to use Cloud for review purposes. Before I used and put things in learning management systems, and I found that to be very useful because I could load up the contents to Cloud, and then I could have folks access that information before I installed it in the learning management system. And I found that was a good way not only to access things like storyboards and information for my development team, but for my team, my stakeholder team that I wanted to have look at the application and look at it on their mobile devices before we implemented it someplace else. And I found that to be very useful. So we're getting a few more, a little bit more feedback. So we've got Mike is using iSpring Play to supplement ILT courses, so instructors can present from the iPad. That's a really great way of using the iSpring Play as well. One of the things that when you're publishing out of iSpring Suite, you can publish in a number of different formats. And here's an example of publishing out using iSpring Play, and then launching the application through the player. And so that's one of the things that you can do. And when I am just testing the application and piloting it, this is a great way to do that, because I can just have it out there. I can have a test team look at it, and then make any corrections before I put that into the my corporate LMS or using iSpring Learn. I just wonder if anybody is actually doing any of the offline viewing where you are accessing, having your learners access the learning and having them download it to their devices. My clients tend to have made the decision, for the most part, not to do this because of proprietary information, and they didn't want to have it on the actual mobile devices. But it is another option, and it's a way for them to access it when they don't have access to the internet, and to also have it available at any time. So I think that's a really good option, if you have that need. Okay, so just a couple more things here, talking about measuring results. How are you going to measure results from this, from the project? And then also, how are you going to advocate for the investment? So it's always understanding how successful your program was and how the mobile project that you developed contributed to the organization, which allows you to get more budget and more money to work for more projects. So here's an action plan for you. I think one of the things that you need to do, and this is a quote from a gentleman at Amway, and I really like this, is if you're thinking about moving to mobile learning, you want to pick one project and try not to do a whole lot of things at once. And then remember back to the project that I talked about with the real estate company. We chose not to, when we developed our first project, we chose not to implement and do everything that we could do with mobile learning, the responsive design, the things that really take advantage of moving to mobile technology, because it was our first project. And we wanted to have a small-scale project that allowed us to evaluate and make adjustments. And I think that's very, very important. So you want to have in this pilot project, pick a specific goal, what you were going to deem as success for the project, how long you're going to run the project, and then who's going to participate in the project. I think it's really important to generate buzz and share project goals and tell users how it's going to impact their job as well. So those are all things that are really important. If you decide to do a mobile learning project, I highly encourage you to do a small pilot first, test it, make sure it's working, and then roll out the next project and use your project template and your project plan as a success. There are a number of really good online project management tools that you can use that will assist you. The one that I like is a project tool called Brightkey, but these are just some of the other ones, and there's a website that you can go to that I like that actually compares different project management tools, and you can go out and look at their website to see what their, what the differences are. But I like looking at a table and seeing at a glance what different tools, what they have to offer. And this particular website, it does that with other things as well. So you can look at other development software and different things as you're thinking about purchasing them. A couple of other things that I'll throw out for you is Lou Russell's book on managing projects, even though it's not specific for mobile learning, is a really good resource. I also love this book called The Manager's Guide to Mobile Learning. The first 4 chapters of this book gives you an overview of mobile learning, and then it sets the stage for step-by-step insight. And it talks about the business drivers, like we talked about, the benefits and challenges of mobile learning, and then details some of the different types of mobile learning experiences that organizations should consider. Then the middle section walks you through the steps for a vision statement, identifying the stakeholders and some of the things that you'll want. And then finally, they're going to talk about project management, how you engage the stakeholders and work through the development process. So this book is an excellent resource, and I would encourage you to get it. And I think Polina is going to share my presentation and its information afterwards too, so you guys will have that as well. The other book that I think is excellent is this book called Mastering Mobile Learning by Chad Udell and Gary Woodall. It also includes some really good resources and information. And then I've got a couple of good links that you can go out and look at with information as well. So I know that this was mostly I'm talking about project management, working with mobile learning projects. I think that when you're developing mobile learning, you just don't want to just jump right in. You want to have a plan. You want to have an idea and a path, and then consider all of the steps in between and your results to make it successful. I hope this was helpful. Polina is going to share the presentation with you afterwards, and I think we have a few minutes for some more questions.
Yeah, I think that at this point we are ready to start the Q&A session, and if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to submit them now, and I will be more than happy to address them to either to Debbie or to Alex. And thank you very much, Debbie. I think that you covered a very interesting topic, and our attendees will have a lot to digest afterwards and think about and maybe implement for their future projects. And I personally really enjoyed it. I found it very helpful. Thank you very much. And yes, I will be sharing Debbie's presentation and also the recording of the webinar. It will be posted to our YouTube channel today, and we will also include it in the mailing to all the webinar attendees and registrants. So if you guys can't wait till you receive the message, you're more than welcome to check out our YouTube channel a couple of hours after this webinar.
Polina, it looks like there's a couple of questions there.
Mm-hmm.
I will see here. So the airline case study, how long did the whole process take from planning to deployment, and how many courses did we develop? So that's been an ongoing project. We started in 2014, and we did, our first project was a project that was an overview of the company, because they didn't have anything that kind of that spelled out how this corporate airline, the relationship to the parent organization. So we thought that that would be a great way to set the stage, because it would be something interesting. So you remember that I said that when you first do your project, first project that you do, you want to have something that people are going to be interested in attending, and it may not be something that they have to attend. So that's what we did. and we got a really good response. We got some good feedback from the audience, and we've been developing training ever since then. So we are now, we've developed since 2014, we've developed about 25 courses. Some of them are compliance courses like bloodborne pathogens, safety courses, and then there are some courses such as teamwork, skill building courses as well. So it's been, an ongoing process, and we're still developing courses. There was a question here, and this might be a question, Felina, for Alex about if your LMS does not support mobile learning, what other options are there?
Yeah, Alex, maybe you could cover that question. And before you do that, I just wanted to let everybody know that I will be sharing the link to our YouTube channel in the comment section, so you guys are more than welcome to check it out. Yeah, Alex? All right, just 1 second. Okay.
Well, so I hope that everyone understands that each LMS supports some standards like SCORM or TINCAN, and therefore if you use mobile apps, the results are sent according to these standards. So for example, if you're using the most powerful standard that's called TINCAN, then most of the LMSs with this standard usually have the mobile app, but in case if your LMS vendor doesn't have the app, I guess that you can contact the developer and ask if he or if the vendor plans to invent the mobile app especially for you, and also my colleagues from development team of iSpring can consider the development of app for your LMS, especially for you, based on our iSpring Learn app.
Thanks, Alex. I want to address, there was another question from Lynn about the use of cell phones for mobile learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's a place for using cell phones for mobile learning. There's certain types of courses that you can use mobile cell phone for. Those are going to be, for me, we're doing micro learning, so we're doing video-based learning, or things that that don't have a whole lot of interaction. So we'll do that type of learning and use the app and put that out on a mobile phone. If we are doing a training that involves a lot of interaction or an assessment, then we tend to use a tablet for that type of learning. And we'll tell the user up front which device that we think they ought to use to take that particular learning. It's just, there's some things that it's really not conducive to the use of a cell phone. So there was a question about how long did it take to develop an aviation course, for example, safety courses. A lot of those courses take about the same amount of time that it takes to develop an e-learning course. The only thing that's different between an e-learning course and a mobile course is testing the technology, and then understanding that that you should build for the technology in advance. So if you know that you're going to be deploying the training on mobile and on desktop, then we build for mobile. And if we're going to also build to take advantage of mobile technology, that we let people know that in advance. And that has to do with the interactions that we're building in the course or things that are specific for mobile.
And there is also one question from James. If you have any guidelines for mobile learning modules file sizes for downloads to mobile devices?
You know, I probably have some resources, Paulina, that I can provide to you that
Mm-hmm.
we can include, that we can provide to the audience after this session. I I don't have anything off the top of my head, but that's also a consideration for why we don't necessarily download to mobile devices, because depending on the organization, the tablet or the phone that people are using may not have a lot of storage enabled on the device.
Mm-hmm.
And also the amount of time, if they're not using a Wi-Fi connection, the amount of time that it physically takes to download that file to their device can vary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you could share that resources with me, I'll be happy to then share it with our audience. I
Great.
think the more information we have on that question, the better, so that we can choose from. And
And
then,
I'll do the same for Mike as well.
okay.
Hey, Mike. So, so Mike asked about building mobile learning for a blended learning event, and what I've done for a blended learning event has actually been for gamification training, and we've used mobile learning for performance support. So um, part of the game that we were doing in a learning event, and then also for a 30, 60, 90 follow-up session to the event. We've used mobile learning and actually built a performance support app to do that with. And that's one thing that you could use the iSpring Cloud for.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so we do have a couple more minutes. So if you guys are interested in anything else, you're more than welcome to submit your questions. And Debbie, is this correct that you're going to be presenting at Learning Solutions Conference?
Yes, I'm actually going to be talking about mobile learning project management again at Learning Solutions.
Yeah, so if you guys are
And
planning to
that's
go, this is the place to meet Debbie in person, if you can catch her there. All right, so actually it looks like we've covered all the questions at this point, and I would like to, yeah, here's a comment from Lynn. Have you written down your ideas? I'm not sure what this is referring to, though.
yeah. So I can share my presentation with you, and then if anybody has specific questions, if you'd like to contact me, I'm happy to provide you some more details about some of the projects that I've worked on. You can reach me via Twitter. My Twitter handle is there on the slide deck, and then
So it's,
I can provide my information as well.
is this at Creative Double I?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
let me
that's
just,
me.
it's wonderful. Okay, I'm just copying it one more time in the comments section to all the attendees.
Sure. And I also have presentations out on SlideShare, and you can access those through LinkedIn or directly through SlideShare. And of course, we'll have this presentation out on the iSpring YouTube channel as well.
Mm-hmm. And are there any resources that you would recommend for K-12 institutions?
As far as resources, I would look at some of the information that I provided, the books and information as well. And then, frankly, I think that, you know, when you're testing and if you're just trying to dip your toes into mobile learning, the iSpring products are a great way to do that. They're very affordable, they're easy to use, and you have a number of different options for deployment, and I'm a big evangelist for iSpring. I use a lot of the other products as well, but I like using the iSpring products because they are, like I said, they're easy to use, and they have some of the options that I'm starting to utilize, such as the XAPI options and some of the things that are leading edge. I think that iSpring is an innovator in the industry as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And there was one question from Mark, just quickly wanted to cover. How do I see the comments section? So I guess it should be like something like a chat on the right side of the GoToWebinar panel, somewhere at the bottom, the window that you can expand. And there you can find our comments that we've been sending to all the attendees. All right, so I just wanted to let's cover the very last question, and then we'll be ready to go. What is your opinion about social media platform in mobile learning?
Social media platform in mobile learning.
I think it's like using
am
social media in just learning, I guess.
well, you know, I'll tell you, I deal mostly with corporate clients, and with corporate clients, they tend to be very conservative about the use of social media in learning. Now, they use social media for other things, for customer-facing information, but not so much for learning. I am looking into using social media as part of the idea of collaboration and coaching in learning in general, in enabling people to have a private channel that they can either talk to a coach or they could talk to a team. So for example, if you were building, if you had a class that someone took and you wanted to be able to have a community where people could talk afterwards and share ideas and collaborate, using a private social media channel such as a Yammer channel or something else where they could, a group channel either in LinkedIn or Facebook or something, where they could further the discussion, I think is a good idea in general for learning, because it gives everybody a chance to take that learning to the next level. Of course, it's going to need a moderator, somebody who just kind of makes sure that everybody keeps on track with the topic and they're not going off topic and talking about their favorite ramen restaurant. But I think that has a really good place in learning, and it's something that people are looking at.
Thank you very much, Debbie, for sharing. Okay, at this point, let's wrap up. Thank you again for presenting. I think I'm pretty sure that all our attendees really enjoyed what you've been talking about, and we've seen a lot of really nice comments. And thanks to all our attendees for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we will see you at our next webinar next week. We will be sending invites rather soon, and thanks to Alex for joining us today as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and see you at the next webinar. Bye-bye, Debbie. Bye, Alex. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.